It was just a joke, bro.
Oh, yeah, we hear that phrase, like, constantly.
Right. It is the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card for the internet age.
Right.
I mean, think about it. Imagine waking up, you check your phone, and you find a deeply convincing video of you doing something completely humiliating.
And it's been sent to literally every single person in your school or your workplace.
Exactly. Your stomach just drops, your heart starts hammering against your ribs, and the person who made it, the person who spent hours crafting this AI deepfake, they just throw their hands up.
Right. They just say, hey, relax. It was just a joke.
Yeah. So at what exact moment does our culture's favorite digital defense mechanism actually cross the line from a prank into, like, a literal prosecutable crime?
Well, the line isn't just crossed in those moments. I mean, it is completely obliterated.
Really? Obliterated?
Oh, absolutely. That phrase is this very specific, highly engineered type of modern gaslighting. It completely deflects accountability.
While weaponizing the victim's reaction, right?
Oh, exactly. It makes the person who is experiencing this profound psychological trauma look like they are simply lacking a sense of humor.
Which is wild. And that brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We are looking at a set of incredibly detailed, really sobering source notes.
They're titled Day 38 Cyberbullying.
Right, and our goal today is to completely dismantle this cultural disguise that digital harassment is just fun, or just, kids being kids.
Because it's not. And if you are a parent, a student, or honestly, just someone who exists on the internet.
Which is pretty much all of us.
Yeah, exactly. You really need the analytical framework to understand the 24/7 psychological warfare that's happening on our devices right now.
And we want to give you the exact tools required to dismantle it. Because if you use the internet, you've seen this behavior.
Oh, for sure. You've scrolled past the mean meme. You've seen the anonymous hate comment.
Right. Our digital culture has just normalized this level of toxicity that would be entirely unacceptable if it happened in physical reality.
To understand how we arrived at this normalization, though, we really have to look at the historical architecture of bullying.
Okay, lay that out for us. What was the old architecture?
Well, for generations, harassment was fundamentally bound by geography. I mean, the mechanics of intimidation required physical proximity.
You had to actually be in the same room as the bully.
Right. You had to be in the classroom or on the schoolyard or, waiting at the bus stop to be targeted.
So you knew exactly where the danger was located. And I guess more importantly, you knew where it wasn't.
Exactly. And the source material draws this really stark line between the past and the present by focusing on the concept of a safe haven.
A safe haven?
Right.
Like the physical home?
Yeah. If the school bell rang at 3 o'clock, that was a daily, guaranteed ceasefire.
It's like a battlefield where everyone just agrees to stop fighting at 3 p.m.
Right. You walked home, you closed your front door, and the bullies they were locked outside. They couldn't reach you.
And that physical boundary, it triggered a really vital physiological response, didn't it?
Yeah. It did. When a victim of bullying walked into their bedroom, their parasympathetic nervous system could finally, activate.
So their body actually realized it was safe.
Yes. The brain recognized the physical separation from the threat. So the heart rate slows down, cortisol levels drop, and the body can genuinely downregulate.
The bedroom wasn't just a room. It was a biological sanctuary.
Exactly. But the smartphone has completely detonated that sanctuary. The notes highlight this terrifying shift.
Because the harassment has infiltrated the home now.
Yeah, it's happening around the clock through mobile screens, school groups, gaming lobbies, Instagram, WhatsApp.
It's a battlefield that simply has no borders anymore. It's basically as if you've handed the bully a direct, unmediated portal straight into the victim's bedroom.
At 2 o'clock in the morning. And that destruction of the safe haven, it's the single most damaging evolution in modern bullying.
So what exactly happens to the human brain when that physical boundary is permanently removed?
Well, think about it. If your subconscious knows that an attack could materialize at any second of any day...
Regardless of where you physically are.
Right. Your nervous system never gets the signal to downregulate. You are locked in this perpetual state of hypervigilance.
You're permanently bracing for an impact. And that impact could come from, a piece of glass sitting right there on your nightstand.
It's exhausting. And because the bully has this unrestricted, round-the-clock access, they don't have to wait for a specific window anymore.
Right. They don't just have that 5-minute gap between classes to shove someone into a locker.
No. They have infinite time to be creative now. They have hours to sit in their own bedrooms and just calculate the most devastating way to dismantle someone's social life.
Wow. And that transition from spontaneous physical aggression to this, like, calculated digital strategy, it introduces some highly sophisticated forms of psychological torture.
It really does. The source material breaks down the specific dynamics used in schools and colleges today. It's no longer just a chaotic free-for-all in the playground.
It's systematic now. The notes identify the first major category as group exclusion.
Right, which is where a student is intentionally removed or ignored by their peers.
Like sharing essential study notes with an entire class group, but deliberately leaving one specific person out.
Exactly, it's targeted.
Okay, I need to play devil's advocate here for a second, because this is where a lot of adults might just roll their eyes.
Sure, go ahead.
Isn't group exclusion just a biological reality of human socialization? I mean, cliques have existed since the dawn of humanity.
Oh, they definitely have.
We sort ourselves into groups. We've all experienced not being invited to a party or a dinner. So why is leaving someone off a text thread suddenly elevated to the level of harassment in these sources?
That's a great question. And distinguishing between natural social sorting and digital harassment, it requires looking at the architecture of the platforms themselves.
Okay, so it's about how the apps actually work.
Yeah. Natural cliques form organically,
Mm-hmm.
People naturally gravitate towards shared interests. But the group exclusion detailed in the text relies on the intentional weaponization of visibility.
The weaponization of visibility. What do you mean by that?
Modern apps are designed to show you exactly what you are missing.
Oh, right. You can see the typing bubbles.
Yes. You see the read receipts. You see that everyone else is active in a Discord server that you were just kicked out of.
So the cruelty isn't just in the act of excluding someone.
Exactly. It's in the coordinated effort to ensure the victim is forced to watch their own exclusion in real time.
That is so dark. And when this tactic crosses into academic territory, like the text's example of withholding study notes,
Yeah.
it morphs, right?
Right. It goes from a social slight into active academic sabotage. The goal is to isolate the victim from the very community infrastructure they need to actually survive and succeed.
It's the difference between, oh, we forgot to invite you, and we are making absolutely sure you know we actively chose to leave you behind.
And the platforms make that exclusion a literal spectator sport, which leads directly into the next tactic the notes cover.
Public humiliation.
Yes. The sharing of embarrassing videos, secret classroom recordings, or making a really minor incident go viral.
The scale of public humiliation today is just unprecedented, isn't it?
It really is. Historically, if a student tripped in the hallway or gave a foolish answer in class, maybe like 30 people witnessed it.
Right. It was a localized embarrassment. And it just faded as human memory naturally degraded over time.
But today, a camera is basically always rolling.
And the algorithm guarantees it doesn't just stay with those 30 people in the room.
Oh, no. It gets pushed to the entire school, to neighboring schools, to the For You pages of complete strangers.
The text actually points out that thousands of people can consume this single moment. We aren't just talking about embarrassment anymore.
We are talking about immortalization. Immortalization of your worst, most vulnerable moment.
Once that video or secret recording is uploaded, the victim is completely stripped of their fundamental right to contextualize their own life.
Exactly. The digital record, it doesn't care that you were having a bad day or that you just made a simple mistake.
It freezes that moment of humiliation and serves it up as permanent entertainment for everyone else.
And that permanent record aspect is truly chilling. The text also digs into rumor spreading.
Right. Fabricating fake relationships or releasing heavily edited chat logs to frame someone.
Yeah. And then there's academic shaming, which attacks the very core of a student's identity.
The notes list specific examples of this, like mocking someone's grades or trolling an accent, targeting their appearance.
Or branding them with labels like loser, fat, nerd, or backbencher.
Those specific labels sound really reminiscent of like 1980s movie bullies, but their impact is entirely different when applied digitally, isn't it?
Completely different. When a label like loser or a critique of someone's accent is attached to a digital profile, it becomes a searchable, indelible brand.
So it follows them everywhere online.
Exactly. The bullies are essentially attacking the victim's attempts at self-improvement.
Like if you try to speak up in class and practice your English and immediately get recorded and mocked for your accent.
Right. The psychological conditioning teaches you to just never speak up again.
That's a perfect transition into what I think is the most culturally pervasive, insidious form of this behavior.
The one that hides right out in the open.
Yes. It masquerades as comedy. The source material spends a lot of time on the weaponization of humor.
specifically the epidemic of meme harassment.
Meme culture provides the perfect camouflage for cruelty, doesn't it?
It really does. The notes detail how attackers harvest raw material, like a victim's photo, a snippet of their voice, an awkward bodily posture, or a deeply personal mistake.
And they feed that raw material into an editing template, circulate it rapidly, and then hide behind that universal shield we discussed at the start.
Yep, they just say, hey, it was just a joke.
But the math of that joke is completely broken. There is this terrifying asymmetry to meme harassment.
What do you mean by asymmetry?
Well, think about the energy expenditure. A bully takes, what, 3 seconds to snap a photo under a desk?
Yeah.
They drop it into a free app on their phone, type a degrading caption, and hit publish. It takes almost zero effort.
And it provides a momentary 2-second hit of dopamine and amusement for the creator.
Exactly. While that 2-second action by the creator instantly triggers a permanent psychological crisis for the target.
The text is so explicit about the fallout here. We're talking profound anxiety, depression, and paralyzing social fear.
So the effort required to inflict the wound is infinitesimal.
But the monumental, years-long effort required by the victim to heal from it, it's just staggering.
It honestly reminds me of a medieval pillory. Locking someone in the wooden stocks in the center of the town square for everyone to hawk.
That's a great analogy.
Except the internet has turned the entire world into the town square. The victim's own digital identity is the wood locking them in place.
And the joke is the rotten tomatoes.
Exactly. But because it's the internet, the crowd is infinite, and the tomatoes literally never stop rotting.
The text talks about the digital footprint, right? How nearly impossible it is to delete this content once it escapes into the wild.
Your pillory analogy captures the public nature of the abuse, but I think it almost understates the technological escalation.
How so?
Well, medieval villagers couldn't manipulate reality. Today's bullies absolutely can.
Oh, right. The source text specifically highlights the use of AI deepfakes.
And this is where technology has vastly outpaced human empathy and our legal frameworks.
That part of the notes is terrifying. It's one thing to edit like a funny hat onto a picture of me,
Sure, that's just a basic edit.
but it is an entirely different universe of trauma to use AI to generate a highly realistic synthetic video of me saying or doing something vile.
Something that never actually happened in real life.
Right. How does a teenager defend themselves against a fabricated reality?
If a video looks exactly like you and sounds exactly like you, the burden of proof is suddenly shoved onto the victim.
They have to prove a negative. They have to prove they didn't do it.
And the potential for reputational destruction is just boundless.
It leaves victims utterly terrified to attend school or engage in any normal social interaction.
Because the sheer act of existing provides visual data that can be weaponized against them.
It forces a complete withdrawal from society.
And while meme pages or AI deepfakes often get shared in somewhat public forums, maybe a WhatsApp group or a college confessions page, the source notes dive into an even darker layer of harassment.
Right, what happens when the attacker removes their face completely?
Let's unpack the psychology of anonymous trolling.
Well, anonymity completely rewires human behavioral constraints.
It changes how we act.
Completely. The text identifies anonymous trolling, where an attacker uses fake IDs and unknown accounts to repeatedly target a victim as uniquely dangerous.
Because without the tether of a real-world identity, accountability just evaporates.
Exactly. In behavioral psychology, this is known as de-individuation.
De-individuation, so losing your sense of individual self?
Basically, yeah. When people feel they cannot be identified, their adherence to social norms and basic empathy drastically diminishes.
So the person who sits quietly in the back of the math class, who would never dare to insult you to your face, suddenly transforms into a monster online.
Because the mask protects them, and the notes detail their specific tactics.
Like what?
Deeply abusive comments focused on body shaming or caste and religion insults.
And direct threats.
Right.
Warning the victim that they will be physically attacked on campus.
Or that their accounts will be hacked. They also spread fake rumors with fabricated chat screenshots.
But the tactic that really made me pause was what the notes call organized hate campaigns.
A hate campaign is just a masterclass in psychological manipulation.
Because the bully doesn't just create one anonymous account, do they?
No, they create 10, 20, or even 50 fake profiles. They orchestrate a completely synchronized attack.
But wait, does this actually trick the victim?
What do you mean?
Like, If I'm a teenager and I start getting flooded by 50 different faceless accounts telling me I'm worthless, does my brain recognize that it's probably just one dedicated troll with too much free time?
Or does the sheer volume break down your logic?
Yeah, exactly.
The human brain, especially an adolescent brain, is not wired to rationally calculate IP addresses and account creation dates while under extreme emotional threat.
So they don't see it as one person.
Not at all. It processes the incoming data as absolute reality.
Wow. So the illusion of multiple accounts creates this devastating narrative for the victim.
It convinces them that the entire world has turned against them.
It is not an interpersonal conflict with one bully anymore. It is a global rejection of their existence.
And because they don't know who is actually behind those avatars, the paranoia must bleed out of the digital world and directly into their physical reality.
Oh, it absolutely does. They have to walk into the cafeteria, look around at 100 different faces, and wonder, is the person smiling at me right now the same person who sent me a death threat at midnight?
Is it my lab partner? Is it my best friend?
It destroys the very foundation of trust. If the threat could be anyone, the threat essentially becomes everyone.
The victim cannot rely on their social environment at all.
This constant ambient paranoia is the bridge between the digital actions of the bully and the profound physical and mental destruction of the victim.
Which brings us to the most critical section of the source material, the invisible damage.
Right. The text states unequivocally that the most severe damage from cyberbullying isn't physical.
It is a complete structural collapse of the victim's mental health.
We're dealing with emotionally vulnerable teenagers. Their entire social currency and developing identity are tied to their digital presence.
And when that presence is under a 247 siege, the physiological effects are literally catastrophic.
The notes start with anxiety, specifically the fear of every single notification.
The mechanism behind this is a textbook Pavlovian fear response.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, we have all been conditioned by tech companies to experience a micro hit of dopamine when our phone vibrates.
Like getting a text from a friend or like on a photo.
Exactly. But for a victim of cyberbullying, that neurological conditioning is violently inverted.
The buzz isn't dopamine anymore. It's pure cortisol.
Yes. The mere sound of a notification chime triggers an instant spike of adrenaline.
The heart races, the muscles tense, the stomach just drops.
They're terrified of the device in their pocket because they have no way of knowing what the next vibration means.
It could be a harmless update, or it could be an anonymous account urging them to end their life.
And the text then connects this anxiety to a terrifying cascade of secondary effects.
Constant sadness, profound depression, and feeling completely worthless.
The victim physically isolates themselves from friends and family because, as we discussed, they don't know who they can trust.
But the physical symptom that really stands out in the notes as a major catalyst for further decline is sleep problems.
Caused by overthinking. And we cannot overstate the destructive power of sleep deprivation.
It just ruins everything.
It really does. If a teenager is lying in bed at 3 a.m., trapped in a loop of hypervigilance, staring at a screen emitting blue light,
While their body pumps stress hormones.
right, their circadian rhythm simply shatters. And when you strip away REM sleep and deep sleep over a period of weeks, you systematically destroy the brain's executive functioning.
Which perfectly explains the next consequence listed in the text. Academic decline.
It's not that the student suddenly stops caring about their future.
It's that their prefrontal cortex is literally too exhausted to process a calculus equation.
They start failing, and that failure feeds right back into the low self-esteem, which just accelerates the depression.
It is a self-sustaining downward spiral. The failure validates the cruel things the bullies are saying.
And at the absolute bottom of this spiral, the source material places the darkest, most severe outcome.
Extreme self-harm and suicidal ideation.
The psychological torture reaches a threshold where the victim's brain, desperate for an escape from the relentless 247 pain, begins to view their own destruction as the only viable exit strategy.
It is agonizing to realize how many kids are trapped in that spiral right now.
It really is.
And what makes it worse, what makes it feel almost impossible to solve, is the section in the notes on the silence epidemic.
The text reveals that victims rarely tell their parents what is happening.
The reasons listed are fear of having their phone confiscated, deep embarrassment, the absolute certainty that nobody will understand, and the fear that adult intervention will just escalate the bullying.
The bully actively relies on that silence. It is the oxygen that keeps the harassment alive.
But we have to look at why teenagers choose silence. From an adult perspective, it seems completely irrational.
But from the teenager's perspective, staying silent is a highly calculated risk assessment based on how adults typically react.
Okay, I have to challenge this, specifically the first reason the text gives.
The fear of the phone being confiscated.
Yes, because I look at this through the lens of basic physical protection. If my child is putting their hand on a hot stove, my immediate non-negotiable reaction is to pull their hand away from the burner.
Of course, that's natural.
Right. So if the smartphone is the source of the torture, if that device is actively destroying their mental health, isn't removing the device the most logical protective action a parent can take?
That instinct makes perfect sense to a parent operating under the rules of physical safety. But in the digital ecosystem, treating the phone like a hot stove is a catastrophic miscalculation.
How? I mean, you are removing the source of the pain.
Because the phone is not just the stove, the phone is the entire kitchen. It is the entire house.
Wow. Okay.
It represents the totality of their social existence. When you confiscate the device, you are executing a massive psychological backfire on multiple fronts.
Okay, break those fronts down for me.
First, look at the justice of the situation. The bully is committing the offense, but the victim is the one who is stripped of their property.
And their access to information and their entertainment.
Exactly. You are functionally penalizing the victim for being attacked.
I'm punishing them for coming to me for help. I'm proving that telling the truth results in losing their phone.
Precisely. And the second more dangerous consequence is that you sever their only remaining lifelines.
Because the phone isn't just delivering the hate campaign.
No, it is also the only way they can reach their one supportive friend or access a supportive online community or even just distract themselves with a game.
So if you take the device away, you don't cure their isolation. You enforce a total impenetrable quarantine.
You essentially lock them in a dark room alone with their own traumatized thoughts.
And by doing that, you completely validate their underlying fear that the text mentions. Adults do not understand.
You prove to the teenager that you have no idea how their world operates, and they will never, ever bring a problem to you again.
You have closed the door on communication permanently.
Exactly.
So if the parental instinct to just take the phone away is fundamentally flawed and actually dangerous, what is the protocol?
Right, because parents are terrified, kids are suffering, and ignoring it clearly doesn't work.
Thankfully, the final section of our source material lays out a rigorous, step-by-step action plan. It covers parenting, defensive protocols, and the actual law.
The text provides a definitive playbook, and it begins with a really harsh truth for parents.
Which is?
Simply providing technology to your child does not fulfill your obligation. You have to actively teach digital navigation and safety.
Because handing a vulnerable adolescent an unmonitored smartphone isn't just giving them a toy.
No, it is giving them a live microphone hooked up to a stadium of millions.
With no idea where the mute button is, while hostile crowds are allowed to scream back at them.
Right. And the first directive for parents in the text is to maintain open, completely non-judgmental communication.
You have to let the child explain what happened, who did it, and on what platform it occurred without having a reactive meltdown.
The adult must absorb the panic, not reflect it back.
That makes sense.
If the child confesses they're being blackmailed over a photo and the parent immediately starts screaming about why they took the photo in the first place, the child just shuts down.
The parent must be a shock absorber.
And to be that shock absorber, the notes stress that parents must understand the platforms.
The text explicitly lists Instagram, Snapchat, Discord, Telegram, and gaming chats.
If your kid says, hey, I'm getting harassed in a voice channel on a Discord server, and you as a parent have no idea what a server is,
or how moderation works on that app.
right, you are useless to them. You cannot protect them from an architecture you refuse to understand.
Platform literacy is non-negotiable. But beyond the technical knowledge, the text focuses heavily on the emotional response.
It lists specific phrases that parents must eradicate from their vocabulary.
Like never victim blame.
Never ask, what did you do to provoke them? And most importantly, never give the advice to just ignore it.
Why is just ignore it so dangerous? I mean, it worked in the 1990s.
It is a total relic of offline bullying.
Because if a bully yelled an insult in the hallway and you walked away, the event was physically over.
The silence starved the bully of a reaction. But digital harassment operates on an entirely different physics.
The viral video is still accumulating thousands of views while you sleep.
The AI deepfake is still being forwarded. The anonymous hate campaign is still running.
So ignoring it doesn't starve the fire. It just means you're quietly burning while everyone else watches.
The alternative the text offers is incredibly empowering, though,
Instead of ignore it, the parent needs to say, this is not your fault, and we are going to dismantle this together.
which leads directly to the specific, actionable steps.
The text calls for saving evidence, taking screenshots of the chats, logging the links, saving the usernames, and archiving the posts.
I refer to this as the forensic approach, and it requires overcoming a massive evolutionary mismatch.
What do you mean by evolutionary mismatch?
When a human being encounters something deeply painful, like a morphed image of their face or a message telling them to die, their immediate primal instinct is flight.
Right. Get it off the screen, delete it, block the memory.
But in the digital realm, acting on that instinct destroys your ability to survive the attack.
By deleting the pain, you are literally deleting the evidence of the crime. You're sweeping the crime scene clean for the attacker.
Exactly. The text demands that victims and parents override that primal urge. You have to stand still and photograph the predator.
You must capture the screenshot, note the URL, and document the timestamp.
Because those forensic artifacts are the only currency accepted by platform moderators when you use the block and report features.
And they are the absolute foundation of the next most crucial step, informing authorities.
The text mentions escalating the issue to school counselors, principals, and anti-ragging committees if the attackers are classmates.
But then the source material crosses a massive threshold. It moves out of the principal's office and into the courtroom.
The text asks, can cyberbullying be a crime? And it delivers a definitive, undeniable yes.
This changes the entire psychological landscape for the victim. It reclassifies the experience.
Society often tries to minimize these events as just digital drama or kids being mean.
But the text shatters that minimization by listing specific digital actions that trigger criminal liability.
Like issuing physical threats, persistent stalking, utilizing morphed images or deepfakes.
Or making explicit sexual comments, fabricating fake accounts to harass, and targeted defamation.
These aren't just violations of an app's terms of service. They're actual violations of the law.
The text notes that in India, for example, there are dedicated cybercrime portals and specific police divisions structured to handle this.
The law has recognized the devastating reality of digital violence.
For a victim who feels utterly powerless, realizing that the legal system classifies their bully as a criminal is a profound paradigm shift.
It reclaims their agency. They aren't just a helpless target of a joke. They are the victim of an offense.
And the attacker is legally vulnerable.
Right. The source notes wrap up with a checklist specifically tailored for students, offering defensive driving tips for the internet.
Like sharing personal photos with extreme caution, knowing they can be weaponized.
And locking down privacy settings so your digital life isn't an open buffet for trolls.
Be highly suspicious of unknown links and blank accounts, as those are the primary delivery systems for malware and harassment.
But there's one tip here that I want to drill down on.
Okay, which one?
The text explicitly tells students, leave toxic groups. It warns them not to endure abuse, just to maintain proximity to the cool crowd.
As an expert, how hard is that directive to actually execute?
Oh, it's incredibly hard.
Because when an abusive Discord server or a deeply toxic WhatsApp group represents 100% of a teenager's social network, when it is the only place they feel they exist, how do they just press leave?
It is the emotional equivalent of amputating your own limb to save your life.
Wow, amputating a limb.
It requires a staggering amount of bravery. To an adolescent, stepping out of that toxic digital group feels like stepping into the vacuum of space.
It feels like social death.
It does, but the text is pleading with them to recognize a harsh reality. Sacrificing your core mental health, enduring daily psychological beatings just to retain a seat at a table that despises you, is a lethal compromise.
You are literally paying for your social existence with your sanity.
Yes. The text is urging them to realize that the void of being alone is ultimately safer and more temporary than the permanent damage of staying.
It is always better to walk away into the quiet and rebuild your identity from scratch.
Than to remain in the group and allow yourself to be systematically dismantled piece by piece.
And the final overarching safety tip for students brings us full circle. Talk to a trusted adult.
Because the silence is what allows the toxicity to mutate in the dark.
The entire architecture of the source notes points toward accountability and radical empathy.
The final message of the text is uncompromising.
If a piece of digital content causes mental harm, if it publicly shames a human being, or if it induces fear and trauma,
it has completely forfeited the right to be called fun.
it is never just a joke. As we synthesize the vast terrain we've covered in these source notes, we've really traced the evolution of cruelty today.
We've seen how bullying broke free from the physical architecture of the schoolyard, hijacked our smartphones, and established a 204/7 forward operating base inside the bedrooms of victims.
We've unmasked the psychological mechanics of the attacks, from the weaponization of visibility in group chats to the dangerous asymmetry of meme culture.
To the cowardly de-individuation that fuels anonymous hate campaigns.
We've mapped out exactly how this constant ambient threat physically breaks down the adolescent brain, destroying sleep, collapsing academic futures, and driving victims toward unthinkable self-harm.
And most importantly, we've extracted the precise tactical blueprint required to fight back.
We've learned why the instinct to confiscate a phone is a catastrophic mistake that isolates the victim further.
We've established the necessity of overriding our evolutionary flight response to collect forensic screenshots.
And we've fundamentally reframed digital harassment not as a social annoyance, but as a prosecutable crime.
The core thesis of the material is undeniable. Our digital actions have visceral, real-world consequences.
The screen does not absolve you of your humanity. And public shaming is a very real form of mental torture.
Exactly.
The text we analyze today focuses heavily on the triad of the bully, the victim, and the parents. It is a really comprehensive defense manual.
It is.
But as we close this deep dive, I want to pivot the lens and leave you with a final provocative thought to process on your own.
It is about the bystander effect in the era of viral media.
Right. Think about your own scrolling habits today. If a cruel meme of a classmate or a coworker lands in your group chat, and you recognize that it's harmful, but you just scroll past it in silence.
Or worse, if you simply drop a laughing emoji to go along with the crowd.
What structural role are you playing in this endless machinery of harassment? The algorithm runs on our attention and our casual complicity.
It feeds on it.
So the next time you see someone's pain packaged as digital entertainment, before you tap, before you share, ask yourself, exactly whose expense am I laughing at?
Because the glass of the screen makes it far too easy to forget that there is a real, fragile, breathing human being on the other side.
Absorbing the impact of every single click.